I'm going to be saying a few statements about your personality and let's see if you can relate to them. You have a great need for other people to like and admire you. At times, you are extroverted, affable, sociable, while at other times, you are wary and reserved. You have a great deal of unused capacity which you have not turned to your advantage. You have found it unwise to be too frank in revealing yourself to others. You pride yourself as an independent thinker and do not accept others' statements without satisfactory proof. Well, if you felt as if these statements were describing you, then you're not wrong. This is known as the Barnum Effect, where you feel that vague, ambiguous statements about your personality are unique to you. This is the reason why psychic readings, horoscopes, tarot card readings are so effective and garner public attention. The term Barnum Effect is coined after the American showman P.T. Barnum. He had a museum and ran several circuses from the mid to late 1800s, and it was very successful at the time. He was a cunning man who used deceit, grandiose claims, and repetitive advertising to get people's attention. He really played on their curiosity. He exploited people with disabilities, had racist exhibitions, and promoted animal cruelty. Yet, it was a source of merriment at the time for the people. And the reason why it worked was that it had a little something for everyone. That's the rationale behind Paul Neal naming this effect as the Barnum effect. This is also known as the Forer effect, which is named after the American psychologist who carried out an experiment in 1949. He called 39 college students and asked them to fill a personality form. It had several items, so they fill in the form. And after a short duration, he gave them a unique description of their own personality based on their form. And at the end of this, he asked them to rate how accurate do you think this reading is of your personality. On an average, the group scored a 4.6 between a scale of 1 to 5. Now, the thing here that is interesting is that all of them received the same personality descriptions, and yet they felt it was accurate in describing their own personality. These Barnum statements and interpretations are usually vague. For example, you require a certain amount of change and variety in your life. And they're also usually double headed. For example, you are someone who has a cheerful and positive disposition, but you also get depressed at times. So they're not really saying anything specific. So there are some factors which make certain interpretations more favorable as compared to others. Now, if that particular interpretation is positive compared to neutral or negative, you're more likely to accept it. For example, you are someone who looks forward for the weekends. Now, who wouldn't? This is a positive statement, so you are more likely to accept it as compared to a statement like you are someone who does not really look forward to the weekend. If you feel that the interpretation is individualized for you, that makes it more likely for you to accept it. So you're just browsing online and you come across this random personality quiz. Now, if that quiz takes in your name, your address, and they make you fill certain questions, and then it gives an interpretation. And at the beginning, it says, "Hey, Nadish, this is for you." So you're more likely to accept it because you feel it has been individualized for you. If there is a proper assessment, and if you feel that the number of questions that you filled were detailed enough and were quite exhaustive, you're more likely to accept it because there has been an assessment, a procedure has gone into it. Also, if the interpreter, now this may be in the case of some psychic reading or tarot card reading, if the interpreter is of high status, that also makes you more likely to accept their interpretation. One probable reason why people fall for Barnum statements or there is an overwhelming acceptance is that these statements have a high base rate of occurrence in the general population. Or what it simply means is that it has a higher frequency to be true for most people. Now, going back to the starting of this video, the first Barnum statement was that you have a great need for other people to like and admire you. Now, unless you are a recluse or a sage, you would accept that to be true. We're all social beings and we all need a certain amount of connection with other people, and we also want to be liked. The wording is such that you can project your own subjective interpretation on it and consider it to be true for you. For example, in that same statement, other people, what is other people? Other could mean your friends, your family, strangers, and great need. What is a great need? Also, if you've noticed, all of these Barnum statements are usually positive. Hence, social desirability is one reason why that there is an overwhelming acceptance. We all want to fit in and be perceived as positive by the other people that are around us, and hence accepting Barnum statements is a step in that direction. Now, Sundberg conducted an experiment where he called college students and he gave them two set of personality profiles. One was the Barnum profile and the other was a bona fide profile, which was their own unique and individualized profile. And he asked them to rate which was true for them. 60% of the students said that their Barnum profile of their personality was more true compared to their actual personality profile. And the reason was that the Barnum profile had 5 times more positive statements compared to the other. Tobaik and colleagues in 1988 made 128 college students fill out the paranormal belief scale, which assessed their belief in the supernatural and then presented the bogus Barnum personality profile. 76% of them considered it to be true. And spiritualism dimension was one that was positively correlated, which means that there might be a connection. It's not conclusive, but there might be a connection. If someone has beliefs in the supernatural or in spiritualism, they might be more likely to accept these Barnum statements. But it's also not just about beliefs. There are a lot of personal and situational variables at play. There is the whole setting that has to be taken into account. For example, in a tarot card reading, you give a token amount, which could vary, and then you enter that space. There are a lot of cultural narratives that are driving this transaction. For example, in India, astrology is so well accepted, especially in rural areas, that it's mind-boggling. Also, it's important to point out that the research that I went through for making this video, most of the researches were carried out in the 70s and the 80s, and there was hardly or maybe negligible research found in the last 20 years. There was no methodological unity or rigor as well. Also, all these experiments that I just gave an example on were carried out on college students, and they are young, so maybe they are more susceptible. The historian Daniel Booston wrote, when talking about P.T. Barnum, that his great discovery was not in realizing how easy it was to deceive the public, but how much the public enjoyed being deceived. That's food for thought. Here's a thought experiment. Suppose you're born on the 14th March, which makes you a Pisces, and all your life you've really identified with this astrological sign. You've read the entire personality sketch of a Pisces. You read all the monthly, the yearly predictions. Maybe you go on dates with only those people who are compatible to your sign. And then one fine weekend, you come across this box of papers which has your birth certificate. And in that paper, it's mentioned that your actual date of birth is the 14th February and not the 14th March, which makes you an Aquarius. I have a hunch that this person would say, "Oh, now it all makes sense. I am an Aquarius." So, understanding the Barnum effect heads you really see when marketers, influencers, or self certified life coaches are trying to flatter you in order to gain your trust to sell you something.